Hello, and welcome to the Psycho Studios podcast, which today we are reviewing Terrifier 3. And yes, we just saw it preview night with a back-to-back of Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. A little bit more about Terrifier 2 later, because I think that does definitely dive into, like, does this $2 million budget really matter that much more?
It's a good call.
Right? But first, let's just go over, definitely going to be spoilers throughout, right?
Yeah, and you told me moving forward we don't have to let the audience know about spoilers, right?
Some people should know.
Okay, fair enough.
But so definitely, I'm going to go with my score first. 1 to Psycho being 10, right? So, and I'm going to give it a 6. Not a solid 6, right? It's just going to be a 6. And your score is going to be what?
Well, and that's the interesting thing. Within the scores, we always have some sort of gradient, right? So it's a solid 6, and I would say it's a soft 6 as well. It is one of those movies for me that it's going to take a little bit for me to absorb and process it because I had some expectations and it was definitely different than I had expected.
Right. That's the biggest thing is, especially seeing the second one, just like, well. I mean, some parts of it, of course, I'm like, right off the bat, that's what I was expecting, but some of it is just like, really? So, anyways, so let's just talk about Terrifier 3 in general.
Okay.
So, back to that $2 million budget. So, I gotta say, I mean, it's full on display from the sets to the scenery. That's definitely, even though it's still on a smaller scope scale, it's definitely still bigger, right?
Oh, yeah, you can feel it.
Right.
And like you said, I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse, but that whole seeing 2 right before 3.
Right.
Wow, I'd like to do that with more sequels.
Right.
That really was eye-opening and entertaining at a different level. And you're right. I think, at least for people like us that are so into film, the $2 million was obvious, and for me, in some ways, that higher budget brought the score down for me because of what they did with it.
I definitely think in the same vein, it's probably similar to how I feel about the film, but I would definitely think a lot of the budget definitely went to the special effects.
Yeah.
It's got to have.
Yeah, and you, I don't know if you gave a number or not, but did you hear, like, how much of it was practical?
No.
Okay, but it was a lot of it.
Well, I would feel like there was only definitely some things of practical effects that would have some CGI, especially, the headless scenes or parts of the body missing. To make it look its best, CGI definitely helps in those scenarios, and it's not that big of a deal in my eyes.
No, I've gotten used to it myself. It's just, I know we've touted that. It seems like we've reviewed a lot of films in the last 12 months that, that was kind of their calling card, right? Hey, we've got a lot of practical effects.
Right. And, I'm definitely all for that being more of the norm than the CGI fest that we've had, especially with I feel like what's really crushed that out is the Marvel Avenger movies.
You mentioned that, right? The big universe movies, right? They've really kind of almost hurt that.
I think that they took the wrong way because Lord of the Rings back in the day, when they were shooting all first of the 3 movies all together, those were claimed to be unfilmable, right? Because how could you put that on a screen? But CGI and the right director, Peter Jackson, right?
Sure, shout out to Jackson, yeah.
And such a encompass that everyone wanted to move to more CGI, and you can see in his later films. A little bit off track there, but I just mean, like, now we go into a movie like this where basically everything's practical effects. To me, it's a breath of fresh air as much as you're probably not going to be getting with that movie.
Yeah, no, I get it, but it's interesting, and I know we got a little bit off track, but I'll just say one thing about the CGI, and you mentioned Peter Jackson. But I think about, what does that look like? That director knew how to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So it's not just blanket CGI is always good, and I know the audience knows that most likely, but Peter Jackson was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. And one of his favorite movies, at least for me, is King Kong.
No,
so.
totally. You got me sold on that. I didn't give it enough appreciation when I first saw it.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's go back on Terrifier 3. So, Terrifier 3 is definitely a violent, gory fest. You know, definitely if you're into just hyper-realistic gore and like they're talking about, you're like questioning if that's fake. And they don't, you know, kids are usually always off the table on movies.
Right.
Like that's all.
You can't show the kid getting killed.
Right, because in real life that is unfortunately what happens, right? So I think that's one of the things that really stuck out to me is that, you know, no one was not on the table.
Yeah, nothing was spared.
Right. So the opening was great. I mean, it definitely was over the top more than the second one, and I think it fit. But as the story progressed, you're like, so where is this gonna go? And I feel like that maybe in a way he didn't feel like that he knew what to do to make a third, but he knew that he unfortunately had to bring back the other characters to make, you know, a trilogy, because he already did greenlight a fourth one, right? So I feel like the first one, like, it's its own movie. I know it still has some things or elements from the other ones, but it's definitely, you know, it's strange to see what he came up with this movie.
Yeah, and by he we mean Damien Leone,
right,
who wrote and directed all of them.
Right.
And it started, and I may be off on the year, maybe it was 2015, but it was All Hallows Eve, which is like a 48-minute feature that first showed Art the Clown.
Right. Well, I mean, there was this other short that he did that was his first rendition.
Right, and it wasn't the actor that we know now that plays Art.
Well, there was two actors that played Art the Clown before.
Yeah.
The most current one.
Yeah, and the most current one is so perfect because he was a mime. Right. So that just works perfect. But speaking to what you're talking about, so then he does Terrifier, Damien Leone, and then he does 2. And he said when he was writing 3, The Treatment, he had so much content that he knew he was going to have it move into 4.
Right.
Basically. So yeah, I mean it's very interesting to see that arc. And like you said, I'm still kind of almost coming down from it because we did see it only a few hours ago, it seems like.
That's what it seems like for sure. But, you know, so we go from the opening act, I think it was written so well and the acting was so well in that beginning act where the little kid goes to the mom, and the mom's like, no, of course there's no one on the roof, you're just hearing things. And then
yeah.
The daughter's really questioning, she's like adamant she really did hear something, right?
And mom, and she was really good too.
Right.
Like the children are good actors.
And so they come up with a story and tell the daughter, oh no, it's just the elves to make sure that the roof is good to go and the chimney is good.
Building Inspector Elf. Right.
So, but anyways, all of that, and God, I don't know, because they always refrain from showing like the heads up close when they're being hurt or something like that because it doesn't look very real.
Right.
I mean, I really hope that there's going to be some really big behind the scenes because I've never seen, like, it didn't even look like puppetry, right? It looked like the real person's head. So I have no idea how they were able to accomplish something like that. So
yeah, and so you're talking. Do you want to follow through on that scene or that opening at least, about how the little girl she's adamant that someone's on the roof? Like she's adamant, right, that there is someone on the roof, and then where it goes from there.
Right. Well, I'm not going into every detail for the audience, right? Right. I want definitely people to see the movie from themselves, especially if you're squirmish. They're the best person to go see that.
Well, do you believe the reports when they say that there are people that have seen 2, and you're starting to hear those reports from 3, that are vomiting, fainting, and having to leave? Do you believe those reports?
I don't know. Maybe one person did. I expect like some people do, but why are those people going to see those movies? I don't know. But I gotta say, you know, to each his own. If maybe they were held hostage and like the only way you can go free is if you can go see this movie with me and not throw up, and so they failed the test.
Right,
so,
there was some monetary piece involved or something. That's a good point, because Damien Allen said he finds it surreal that anyone is doing those things.
Right. So even, you know, like your point to that is like even Art the Clown, the actor, I can't think of his name.
David Thornton.
That sounds correct.
And I know he uses his middle name too, but my apologies. I just know his first and last name.
But he even says like he can't believe that stuff either. So, but again, he is definitely the standout. I mean, obviously it's Terrifier for a reason, but I mean, if anyone can be creepy and not talk, I mean, he through and through, you know, kills that. And
it is amazing. I know, you know, to even say Academy Award is so ridiculous, because that's not in the scope of that organization or whatever you want to call it. But he is amazing in this. When you talk about iconic killers, and we've talked about that, right? Even like a year ago, who are some of those Mount Rushmore? You know, Jason, and Freddy, and Michael. But I think Leatherface. Sorry, you think about Art the Clown and no words, and I know some of those other killers no words, right? So then you can really side by side, and there's no way any of them can touch him. He is amazing.
Well, you think about all the movies, like what you're saying about those other, you know, killers in those movies. I don't think they even can hold a candle to all the horrible acts and violence on screen he's done, even in one movie. Right, so like no one can even like, you know, touch that, and I think that's something to be said, because they have multitude of movies, and through comics, through you know, just so much of art, and get it, Art the Clown. Right?
I do. I caught that right away.
But it's crazy to me to think that, you know, he's done all that, not speaking a word and just gestures, and I think to me probably the hardest thing would have come up is original. It sounds weird to say aloud, but original idea is to kill someone, right? You've seen that time and time again. Well, I gotta say that's, again, as gruesome as that is, there's definitely nothing in this whole movie. You never seen like stuff like this before.
No, especially when you add the Xmas element, right? Just amazing. Hopefully you'll touch on that, and if not, I'll have to a little bit later.
So I like the underline of like struggling with seeing something so horrible and what that does to family members and the struggle with that. I mean, there was like no time to really develop that, which I understand, because there was just so much of art, and that's, you know, that's what you go there to see. But I feel like the pace in the movie is a little mixed, because I definitely like the dialogue was written better overall in this movie compared to 2.
Than 2, yeah.
But the pacing and where the story went was definitely not the right direction. But I guess it was so hard, as it sounds like that he doesn't really have outside intervention, or he doesn't, because he even edits his
I saw
himself,
that, right? Edited by, yeah, good point.
So again, it's his art project. I think it's still amazing, and comparably to anything that I've ever accomplished with something like that, I mean, gotta say it's amazing. And the fact that it can be still relative and be that disgusting, you know, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I will piggyback off of what you're saying, and I think this is what's been happening when we've done these type of reviews recently. Is you give me these light bulb moments, and you're right. Like the fact that the pace, I think that's what did hit me. Now that you're saying it, that's really resonating with me. It's the pace of the violence, and then not really giving you the time within that pace to also see the characters kind of suffer. And I don't mean physically, but it's the emotional
part.
Yeah, that's a great call out on your part. It is the pace.
So, you know, it goes with the main character that survived. Her and her brother survived.
Sienna?
The second one.
Yeah, Sienna and her brother. I'm sorry, I don't know the brother's name.
Elliot, I believe.
Nice. Okay, we'll do it, Elliot.
And so, you know, she's been in and out of mental hospital. Understandable, right? God.
And they barely touch on that too, right? That's, I think, some of that depth and pace.
Right. But anyways, it makes sense. She struggled to what is real and what not real. I mean, anyone traumatized with that, I mean, hell, I think I would be seeing things myself, right? Just the most traumatic thing you could possibly go through. And she had to cut someone's head off, right? There's all that stuff. I mean, what could you even say to that? But, so, you know, it's Christmas time. Of course, people are going shopping. And where do you go to go shopping during Christmas time, right? The mall.
The mall, yes.
And so, you know, she thinks that she sees him there. And, you know, the pacing there, like, some of those pacing aspects are great. And he is there, but she can't tell whether or not it's him because he's wearing like a Santa like mask over his outfit, right? And it's even that is creepy,
right? No, like totally. You think Santa, it's gonna be nice and warm and fuzzy, but it is like a twisted version.
Yeah. So, but I should have said this scene before we talked about the mall scene, so I'm just gonna reel it back just a little bit. But the best part of the movie, in my opinion, is the scene where Art the Clown is walking by a bar, and he, you know, it's shown through the window, and he like does like a double check and is like, and just miming like, oh my God, it's Santa Claus, right?
It was so, and he gave us that with no words,
right?
And you could tell it seemed like genuine joy,
right? And then he, you know, walks in the bar, and there's two like drunk girls walking out, and he like just knocks through them, and there's Santa Claus like on the walls and stuff, and he's pointing to them, and he's like gesturing to them, and like the Santa Claus is doing his best. He's like, no, telling there's two other people besides Santa Claus in there, like just tell him, no, you know, I'm like Elvis, right? It's just, you gotta just roll with it, right? So it's just like,
yeah, let him be, you know, fawning over me.
Right.
It's perfectly fine.
So the whole scene is just over the top, and it's perfect, and it brings into the scene where he was making his craft. I think it's cool that they brought in that tradition of him making another, you know, item or weapon in this one, because the last one he made like a table leg with forks and knives and nails
sticking out of it. Yeah, just insane.
Right, that's a little subtle. It seems like up his alley, but it's like, okay, in this one he's definitely, I'm not fucking around at all, right? I'm gonna have this. And so
I love that piece in horror movies, and I know that it's not used a lot, but it's been used infrequently, where the killer they're showing us towards the beginning, they're making their
an
tools or weapons, right? Isn't there even an element to that in like one of the Texas Chainsaws, like the New Beginning or something, where they're showing that?
It shows him like how do you make his Leatherface mask, right?
Yeah.
You know, go figure it was by taking someone's face off. But anyways,
but that is a great call out. And
so he made the weapon of what?
So he took a liquid nitrogen,
a fire extinguisher,
right, and then he formed it so he could have a really good apparatus to spray it.
Yes.
And he tests it out, so I'll let you take the test. What did he do to test
it? There was a bunch of, you know, rats, right?
Of course, where they're living, it's rat infested.
Right, and so, you know, he sees one of them, it's prime for the picking, and he just sprays it, and go figure, it gets stiff as, you know, all can be. And I think the editing there, I think it doesn't jump away from anything. Like, there's cuts, but it's done just in a way that it makes sense, and I think it's really well done. So I mean, what you're seeing is you're believing, and he picks up that rat after you know,
by
freezes
the tail.
it.
Yeah,
right. It's stiff.
Yeah,
and he just smashes it on the table, and it looks so just grotesque and nasty, and then he sees the other rats, and he's like joyful about it and showing them, and then he of course tosses it to them.
Yeah, because he's gonna feed that carcass to the rats, right? And when he smashes it, because I think they say liquid nitrogen is like 270 degrees below zero, so you can imagine what happens when you smash a living organism. And I immediately thought of Jason 10. So I know we don't want to go off on a tangent, but anyways, to bring that back to that bar scene, you knew where this is going, and
Santa says something about, I knew that was going to come to the effect, is that all Santas have a real beard, right? Holy, oh my god.
Yeah, there was a lot of foreshadowing in this one, right?
Right, the tons of it, but anyways, he uses that weapon he made on him, and man, that was, I don't know how, that looks realer than real. And then towards the end, he used it on his face, right? And then he pulls his beard off. There's a lot of pulling skin off.
There is a lot of pulling. That's a good one. It was like jerky.
I like anytime that was shown like that, I just like, God, and that seems like real. Like that's what you would be able to do, is just yoink that off. But anyways, Art needs a little bit of a new wardrobe, right? Of course, it's Christmas time, so he uses all of that Christmas costume. So that's what leads us to the mall, right?
Yep. Do you want to give a shout out at all to Clint Howard for being at the bar?
Oh, stop it.
All right. Sorry.
No one even knows about the ice cream man, all right? Well, just chill out.
He's the brother of Ron Howard. Come on.
All right. Anyways, so we're back to the mall, and we find out, okay, what would you do if you're dressed up like Santa Claus, right? And so he sits down where Santa Claus was, and
because the good Santa takes a break.
And you think that, of course, he's going to do something bad immediately, but it's a little bit of change of pace. For some reason, he's like letting all the kids come to him, and he's giving them gifts.
He reaches into his terror bag, but there's gifts this time.
There's gifts, and you're like, okay, not good, right? And there's so many kids ready to go, and they're all swarming. And he gets by security, Terrifier Art the Clown gets pushed aside, right? And
yeah, because it's obvious. Yeah, he's got the Santa costume on, but he's Art the Clown. You can see his face.
But you knew he always knows what to push. And so one kid's still there unraveling a present, right? All of them are not in a present. Like, okay,
dolls, footballs,
right? And he knew like something bad was gonna happen. And as soon as the kid opens the box, it explodes.
With Art being out of reach, right? Because he knows what's about to happen,
right?
And so that had to be CGI, right?
I don't know.
Maybe not. Okay, so yeah, the whole area.
All those kids really died.
The whole Santa village explodes.
No, it was intense. That definitely, you're like, wow. That really shows you that nothing really is off the table. We saw kids dead before that, but God. But moving on through the story, so this isn't going forever. I think what was really good for me, the story is like the younger brother Elliot. Got it. I'm sorry if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
If it's not his character's name, it's the actor's name.
Them acting together, or like that distance and time apart, because this is a time jump of 5 years.
Him and the sister Sienna?
Yes.
Okay.
And that relationship I thought was really good, because they were working on the chemistry from the last movie, and I think that definitely helped.
It's a good point. Yeah, that definitely is earmarked.
But I felt like was to me one of the standouts of the actors, because he definitely, it seemed like he definitely believed all this horrible stuff was going to happen again, and they needed to get to the bottom of it. And then he changed pace. He's like, we just got to let go of it, because it's just driving us.
Yeah,
right? It's causing us crazy.
I have to move on.
And then as soon as his sister came back and started spoon feeding him all that information, like he's back and that, then he broke down and was freaking out and, relapsing into being mentally unwell. And that was so real. But then you're still the brother, right? Even though he's the younger brother, he's got to be there because they're the only family that's left. So he's like, at the end, he's realizing, I'm going to have to, no matter what, be there.
Yeah, because, he's even got to recall the fact that he's the one that found his mom first.
Right.
In 2.
Right.
Right, so he had done a disconnect. And was he taking medication in the movie, his character as well? He was, right? It was
in the first and the second and third one, yes.
Yeah, so it's interesting how you called out about the wellness or the mental health aspect, right? Because that's definitely part of this, which it should be in a film like that.
Well, I think what's so interesting, if you really look, and again, that's what I'm saying, I almost want to say it's a 7, because there's a lot of depth if you really want to sit down and break it down like we are, which I think is really cool, because There in the second one, it's about the angel versus the devil, right? And
Totally.
her being that menacing figure with the wings and being able to, guide the light with her sword.
Yeah, so supernatural, right?
Right.
Which art is too. Technically,
Right.
devilish or evil, but he's supernatural.
The reason why I feel like there has to be supernatural in this movie for sure is just how do you combat someone like that?
Right.
If you were just saying he was just a terrible person, then he is eventually going to die. So there's got to be he died in the second one, right?
He was decapitated, right?
But there has to but if he's going to be supernatural, there's got to be supernatural to combat it. It just makes sense.
No,
it's not fair.
It's smart in a movie like that.
It's again, I think it's a very hard way to write yourself out of there. So what I'm hoping with the fourth one is it needs to, unfortunately, I think either lean heavily in one way or the other, but I think that's the only way that's going to happen is it's going to be more sci-fi to explain some of that stuff.
Got it.
But I think there was some connection with the father from the second film to the third one, and then they really dove in with the relationship showing flashbacks. And I gotta say, I'm not really a fan of flashbacks, but that was super well done, and you like losing someone in your life or having a connection to someone that isn't there anymore. I think that was, I feel like that the writer director, he definitely was pulling on. He has to be pulling from something he's felt. Yeah,
and it's interesting that you say that because I don't think either of us are really fans of flashbacks in rare occasions, and this was one of those rare occasions where it didn't disrupt the movie for me at all. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense that they need to show that, right? And he's connecting those dots because the father was an artist, and he drew that character that she became for Halloween in 2,
right?
And that the father even touted that she had special powers, and you have the sword. So it was great, and I couldn't believe that the actor who played the dad in those flashbacks was Jason Patric from Lost Boys. I have to watch this movie again already to just see elements like that. And it's what Michael is saying. There's so many things he's saying, but you talk about it is a super gory, gross, violent movie, but then there are these other elements like talking about the mental wellness piece and the flashbacks being done well and bringing that sentimentality into it of losing loved ones in that, and the story arc with the brother and Sienna, the sister. Like, wow, it's funny, but I might now almost be whiffing up to a 7 as well.
So I just wrap up this shortly, but I mean, there's a shower scene in there. Like, I think you just have to go see the movie just for that.
It's not Alfred Hitchcock's shower scene.
Okay. And so to wrap this up, we should just wrap it up by talking about the end of the movie. So, I get everyone is dead. That's to summarize it bluntly, and even like her little brother's dead, and that was like not shown on screen. That was
interesting.
But I think that leaves me to think that he's not really dead.
Because they just show a skull with
glasses.
His glasses supposedly.
And so I'm thinking maybe they got the wrong kid, because I was really confused with the editing. That I thought he was roommates with that one kid at the school
with the blonde messy hair.
Right.
Yeah.
And then. But he goes to bed and messes up a room that doesn't seem to be in the same area, right?
Like when he's getting up when the phone's ringing? Like that
all
part?
Those times.
Yeah, no, I thought that was just me thinking that.
So I just think it's meant to distract you from, again, just could be inaccurate. But, like, maybe he's still alive, but no, not like... From what we know, even like the little girl, Gabby, right?
Yeah, I think that was her name, yeah.
And like everyone, even like the main character, right? She was gonna be dead. And even Art, but of course, to conclude the movie, Art escapes, basically, and he goes on a bus, which is insane. The way it ended
it was a city bus.
Yeah.
He's getting on it at night, right? He's sitting at the bus stop and they're playing some Christmas music.
Yes.
Which they did infiltrate throughout the movie, right? Christmas music. And you're talking about Art getting on the bus, and I want you to get back to that to finish that thought. But real quick, because I don't want to forget this. What did you think about the fact that for the majority of the movie, Art had a sidekick, right? He had Victoria from the second film. Like, what real quick thoughts on that?
I want to say majority. I mean, it added to the story and gave I think what they were doing there is giving a voice to Art the Clown, because
good point.
He doesn't speak.
Right, she did.
She can, and she was, for lack of a better word, speaking for him.
No, that's a great point. It was to give him a voice.
So yeah. I think overall that's the reason. But she was in it, but because
she was supernatural as well.
Right. And we could talk about this for hours.
No, we could. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get you up direct, but I really wanted to call that sidekick out. Not something we normally see with an iconic killer.
No, and I think it fits in, but
it did.
It's all odd. But I'm hoping, I'm excited for more.
And so, getting you back, sorry, because I'm the one who sidetracked that. He's at the bus stop by himself.
Right.
Right. Victoria's done.
Right. From what we know, she's gone. But again, it's really left off for a cliffhanger, and the story could go anywhere. And I think that was purposeful. And there hasn't been a great horror Christmas movie in my opinion. So I'm just excited for maybe a movie set not during the winter. Well,
and you mentioned that, right, about the Christmas aspect, right, and releasing it around Halloween, but it's still, if people will call Die Hard a Christmas movie, which I oppose, this will have to be considered a Christmas movie. How you had mentioned this to me before, and I want to make sure I ask you every time we shoot one of these. Do you think this film will be successful?
Yes, most definitely. And I'm happy for that, because I'm hoping more people come out of the woodwork and feel like that they can make movies and see this as being, possible. So, I'm going to leave off the podcast with upgrading my score to a 7.
He's upgrading it within the same podcast?
So I just give it a solid 7, not a soft 7. All right, I'm just going to give it a 7, and I'm really thankful to have been given the opportunity to see back-to-back, and I give the second Terrifier an 8.5, and I think that one is, now seeing this one almost a 9, respectively.
2. Got
right?
it.
But, I just, people being able to do this and putting themselves out there, and I think that the actor that plays the clown wants to play another clown, which apparently he wants to play the Joker. And I think
wow.
I haven't really, seen him in a speaking role. I've seen him speak in interviews, but I'm just curious that seems like a no-brainer to me if he can, because he's got the body, the build, and the
movements
gestures.
Even. Yeah, right, the gestures, the movements, yeah.
Now can he combine that with his voice?
Right, there's a big difference there, right?
But to me, I would love to see that.
No, I would love to see it too. I'd rather see him as the Joker than Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
That's just me. I know the public loved the first one. I don't know how Joker 2 or whatever it's called is doing, but...
All right, let's not talk about that. Anyways, so what do you leave it off with?
I'm going to have to... I'm not trying to copycat Michael, but I'm going to definitely give this a 7.
Okay.
And I will revisit my score for even 2, and I'm going to give that a solid 8.
Excellent.
Which is higher than what I had before. And it's interesting how these reviews for us, yes, we want our audience to enjoy them, but I enjoy the heck out of it as well. It's interesting how when I hear you start to recollect about the film, it allows me to appreciate it more.
And I think that's what I don't do enough, but the movie's stinky. You're going to find some good parts about it, but that doesn't define it. But something like this, it makes more sense to dive into it, maybe the better it'll be. And especially because it's been, like you said, it seems like a few hours ago, so it's, it takes some time to digest, I think.
It does, especially when a movie is so visceral. Like, wow, that movie is just hitting you over the head, and not in a bad way if you like horror and gore. But man, I've just got to drink that in. And then, because really, you have these lulls where there's just acting. And man, for that kind of movie, I know $2 million budget, but like Michael said, probably half of that budget at least was the effects. But the acting top to bottom for a movie like that is really solid.
Yeah, definitely. And
the dialogue too. I'm a freak for dialogue, and I wasn't hearing that little dialogue voice saying, "Oh, I can't believe they're saying it that way," or saying that. Like it's going to take 2 times around the block on this one to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So really appreciate your feedback on this. It helps me absorb it more.
Yeah.
And we definitely want to let our audience know to like and subscribe.
Yeah, please like and subscribe.
I know that's so cliche, but we've got to say it.
Yeah, if you made it this far, please do that.
Thank you. Is there any way I could end it on a quote, or do you disapprove?
No, we don't need that.
Okay, so, no quotes. All right.
I just please go check out Terrifier 3 for yourself, and if you've not seen the second one recently, I'd definitely digest that as well. And I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and just remember, you stay psycho out there, all right?
Yeah, stay safe, stay psycho.